Hello and welcome back to another episode of TNT with your girl G. I hope you are doing well and that you've had a blessed week, that you've had a blessed weekend, and that you are ready for another episode. I'm excited for this one, mainly because I don't really I don't know whether this is a good thing to say, but I don't really have any notes. I'm really trying to get away from using notes. Like, okay, granted, transparency, I do use notes in a sense of, and you'll probably often see me, if you're watching this on YouTube, then you will see that I have like a phone and I have notes on there. But sometimes it can be distracting because you're like wanting to say what you've made notes on, and I want this to be about the spirit. Like, this is a spirit-filled podcast. I want God to say what he wants to say. And not that he doesn't say that, like through making notes and like spending time and seeking him and preparing the episode. But there's a level of preparation and there's a level of free flow and let the spirit move. And so I'm kind of doing that today. I did that in the last episode as well. I had like less notes and it was kind of sharing from my heart. And again, today, this tea's hot. Again, today, I want that to be the case. I want this platform, this podcast to all be about the King of Kings, and for him to reign and his spirit to just be in this place. Like, I am, like I say always, a mere vessel. I'm a vessel, and it's a case of me emptying myself and being filled with his spirit in order to speak whatever he wants to say. So, with that being said, today's episode is called Be Careful What You Pray For. Be careful what you pray for. Be careful what you pray for. What does that mean? What does that mean, G? And what I mean by be careful what you pray for is like a case of be careful what you pray for, because there might be some big steps that you need to take. There might be some massive steps of faith that you need to take, and a boldness that you need to carry in what you pray for. And kind of talking a bit about that and kind of sharing a little bit of a personal testimony. And like I say, this is God's. So whatever he wants to share, I will share. But yeah, personally for me, even like just thinking this week alone, God has been really speaking to me about like, what are you praying for? And therefore, what steps are you taking? Because I think often we can pray these prayers and God allows maybe like a door to open or areas of our life to become clear, and like and the prayer that we pray is in part answered, but actually there is a step that we have to take. There is a choice that we have to make, and it's whether we do that or we act in ourselves. And it's a real thing, and like something that I've been questioning. And like we can pray, often we like can pray a prayer like, God, like change my heart. But it's the choices that we make in order to strive towards that, in having our heart changed, or, you know, God, remove these things from me. Lord, remove these people from my life. But it's like, are you still entertaining them? Oi, sorry, just tap the mic. But yeah, are you still entertaining that? Are you still in those environments? You're like praying these things, but what choices are you making to step out of them? Like, be careful what you pray for, because it requires you to make some big steps. And are you ready for that? Are you ready for that? A thing with me is like, a testimony in itself is this channel, this podcast alone, and creating content. So from, I don't know, the age of 17, maybe 17. No, not 17. Sorry, 2017. How old was I in 2017? About 20. Yeah, from the age of about 20. Going even further back, I've always been interested in content creation. I've always, thinking back to like the movies me and my sisters made, like that on my like grandparents' like cameras. Like we have child videos for days, like of just cringy things we'd make. Like I remember this one, and I've got like straight hair. And I'm like doing like a L'Oreal, like because you're worth it. And like, like when I watch these things back, I'm like, But I also see like how God had like, even from that young age of being like 10 years old, had instilled in me this passion for creating content, this passion for, making videos and having fun and releasing that creative spirit in me. And I've always like seen that. And like, there's been moments of my life where I've lacked confidence and boldness in this area. And so it came to like about 2017. That's when I actually made this channel. So this channel has been around for a while, but there's just been different phases of my life. I feel like my channel they're not public now, so you can't actually see on my YouTube channel. So soz guys. But my content and the production of it has really evolved through the years of how God has been moving in my life. And so I've always prayed and been like, God, like, I want to create content. I want to, and it's funny, I want to be not an influencer in, I guess, what the worldly sense is, but I want to influence people in the right way. I want to show people what it means to be a Christian, what it means to seek God with their whole heart, what it means to just not follow the crowd and create the same content that everybody else is making, but be different, or like just show who I am, like shine your light through me, God. And I'd always prayed these prayers, and I think, making those bold prayers, but then there was a level that I had to take. So how do you be different? And honestly, the start, when I started creating content, I was fitting the mold. I was doing exactly what everyone else was doing, and expecting a different result. And it didn't really pan out. Like I was creating these like makeup videos, tutorials, because I loved watching them. So I was like, I'm going to create what I love. And so I started doing them. And then I was like, do you know what? I don't actually enjoy making this content. I don't enjoy the editing process of these videos. Do you know what? Props to anyone who does like makeup tutorials and all of that, because it's long. And so I discovered that I was trying to be somebody that I'm not. And then I had the whole idea of TNT. Now, when I launched TNT, this podcast, I said that this is TNT 2.0. This is TNT refreshed and refined. Because the original TNT wasn't a podcast, it was just YouTube videos. And I think there might be like one that I still have of like my old kind of format. But it was a different place in my life, and I knew what God was speaking to me about. I knew that I wanted to do content to show who I was, to show that I was a Christian, to show my faith, to be different. But in praying these bold prayers, in praying the prayers of God, like I want to be different. I want to shine a light in this world. But I wasn't bold in taking a step of faith. I was scared. In all honesty, I was scared. I was worried about what people would think. I was like, yeah, but people aren't going to watch my content. If I like talk about Jesus all the time, people aren't going to watch it. Like maybe I can mention that I go to church, and I can mention that I grew up in a Christian home, and I can talk about aspects of my faith, but I don't really have to like, talk about it all the time and like shout about it, and because who's going to watch? And for me, it really highlighted why I was doing it. It was a case of, I want to get views, and I want to have this online presence, and I want to be a light in this world, and I want to like shine God and talk about him and be different to all these other influencers out there. But actually, like, why am I doing it? It's actually for my glory. Like, and it's like, I'm praying these prayers, but like, what is my intention behind it? And it really challenged me. And I then came to a place of being like, do you know what? I need to stop, because I need to find my focus. I'm praying these prayers, but I'm praying to God this, but I'm stepping in this direction. I'm walking out in this. Like, I'm not walking in line with God and what his will and his purpose. Like, I know I've had these words spoken over my life that you will be a light, that you will be an influence, you will be all these things. But how am I being different? How am I being an ambassador for the kingdom in following what everyone else is doing? Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And I came to a place of just, like I say, refining and refreshing and praying bold prayers. And I came to a place of being like, okay, G, like, I know what God's spoken. I know what he said. It's really exciting, but do you have the faith to go with it? Do you have this boldness that is dangerous? Like, I've been speaking to James and I've been speaking this week, and we're talking about like our relationship with God, and like that we're required to like have this danger about us. Like the enemy, he doesn't go after people who are not following God's will. He doesn't go after people who are living in the world, because he's like, oh, they're not a problem to me. Then they're not a danger to me. But those who are following God's will, who are on fire, are a danger to me. And I want to attack them, because I want to bring them away. I want to distract them. I want to take them away from the purpose that God has for them. And I feel like that's it. I allowed the world and the appeal of like being like an influencer in the worldly sense and being famous and having all of these things and distract me from what my original purpose was. And then it was a case of coming away and being like, God, what are these prayers that I'm praying? No, actually, what steps do I have to take? What bold faith do I have to take? I have to ignore what the world says, and I have to listen solely to you and be focused on what you are requiring me to do and what steps I need to take. And then when you're in alignment, that's when it's like, whew, and the fire and the joy and the like, and it's so exciting. And like, I don't know, like, you know, like when you have those things and it's like, you know, you're not allowed to touch, like, you're not supposed to touch them, but you're like, oh, but like, what would happen if I did touch it? What would happen? And then it's a case of like, God, like, wow, like I've prayed this big prayer. What would happen if I took these steps of obedience? What would happen if I had this bold faith to go with this bold prayer? What would happen? And then it's like, wow. And like, even like coming back, like thinking about this, like, honestly, it was September last year that I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to take these bold steps. God, like, I'm so excited. Like, you've spoken to me about this podcast. I know that I want to proclaim you. I want it to all be about you. Like, I'm removing myself completely from this, and I don't care. I don't care about views. I don't care about, you know, what this channel, because it's all about you. And if it resonates with one person, if one person relates, if one person is able to hear your goodness and your faithfulness and what it means to live a life for you, then oh my gosh, I've made it. I'm excited and I'm so ready and I do not care. And like, having that outlook and having that faith, it just completely changed my whole outlook on everything in life, on every situation that you have. Because when you have that bold like faith that you do not care, it's like when you get older And when you're younger, you really, really care about what people think, because you're like, I don't want to seem like a weirdo. And at school, you're like, oh, I just want to fit in and all these things. And then when you get older, you're like, I'm too old to care. Like, I'm too old to care about these insignificant things. Like, really? Like, nah, I don't care. And it's like that with like our faith. We've got to be like, do you know what? I really don't care if you think I'm a weirdo. I really don't care if you don't want to be friends with me, because I have the greatest gift that I could ever have, and that's Jesus. And actually, I could have nothing else in this world but you. And it's having that mindset, because then when you pray these bold prayers and these prayers that you're like, oh my gosh, God, am I really praying for this? Am I really asking for this? Like, you then have the bold faith to be like, yeah, I'm praying this prayer. And I'm like, whoa, am I really praying this? But I also have the steps and the faith and the obedience to say, do you know what, God, whatever steps I need to take to make this prayer possible, obviously according to God's will, and if it's in his will, then cool, I'm for it. I'm like, I'm so ready. And it's funny, I've been reading Acts actually, and I just wanted to share a bit in Acts. Let me actually find the passage. Where is it? Oh yeah. Yes. So it's when, so the part in Acts is actually Acts 5. And let me actually find where it is. So yeah, it's Acts 5, and they have Peter and John and the apostles have been like arrested. They've been taken into custody, and they're appearing before the Sanhedrin, and essentially what they've been doing is they've been proclaiming God's word. They've been preaching the gospel. They've been just testifying to Jesus Christ, and obviously they're not happy about it, and so they call them into the Sanhedrin. I'm really bad at like pronouncing words. And a guy comes before them to almost like, testify like to them, to be like, do you know what, like, let them go. And a key thing I read is he says he's talking about these guys that they have like arrested before, and how they have done things in the name of themselves. So they have created an uprising, but it's been of their own power, so therefore it's died away. Nothing has happened. And he's kind of saying like, oh, if it's of their own accord, if it's of Peter and John, if it's through them, then leave them, like nothing will happen. But if this is God, so he says, this is what he says, therefore, the present case, I advise you, leave these men alone, let them go. For if their purpose or activity is of human origin, it will fail. But if it is from God, you will not be able to stop these men. You will only find yourselves fighting against God. And I was like, whoo, it struck me, because I'm like, when we do things for ourselves, when we take ourselves and we follow our own will, it will only fall away. It won't come to pass. But when we do things in accordance to God's will, when we pray these bold prayers and we know it's of him, he is in us, no one will be able to stop us. We're dangerous. They're fighting against God and they will fail. These people who are like persecuting us, who are against us, who are trying to cut you down, they will fail. They will fail because they're fighting against God, because we're filled with his spirit. It's him inside of us. It's not us. It's not our bodies. When it is us, that's when we fail, because we're fighting against flesh. But when it's God inside of us, and when we are doing what God has commissioned us to do, we're dangerous. We're on fire. And what was amazing as well is like at the end of this passage, I really recommend read your Bible. I'm reading Acts at the minute, as I just said, and they like beat them, and then they let them go. And it says that the apostles left the Sanhedrin rejoicing because they had been counted worthy of suffering disgrace for the name. Like, they were like, you know what? We have been worthy. Like, we have gone through all of this. People are trying to come for us in the name of the Lord. Like, wow, we're clearly doing something. Like, the fact that this is aggravating people, the fact that this is causing like friction, and that people are speaking about this, that like they're seeing this is amazing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's so exciting to be like, wow, like this is causing friction. Like even sometimes when you like do posts and you're talking and you see like all these incredible people like preaching, and you've got all these comments and whatever, like people bashing them down. It's like, yeah, but you're spending the time to write this comment. You're viewing my content to try and quote me, to try and like have an argument here. Like, I'm like, this is exciting, because it's like we're seeing the move of God. Like, clearly something's stirring you up, something's annoying you. Like, and you know when something's annoying and you think about it. So sometimes you might have an argument with your partner or like a sibling or like anything, and when it's annoying, like you like think about it, you're like, oh, like why did that annoy me? Like that was so annoying. And you like kind of resonate with it, and you're like, oh, like that's really like jarred me. And it's like, oh my gosh, like imagine that the gospel that's happening to some people. Like, they're annoyed with what I'm saying, they're annoyed with what we're doing, and therefore like they're thinking about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's exciting, because they're thinking about it. And then what's going to happen next? And it's like all these seeds that you're planting in completely different ways. It's like all these, you think about like all these vegetables, all these flowers and stuff, all the seeds are so different. And they also have to be planted in different ways, in the dark, in the light, in greenhouses, potted in big pots, but like they all have to be planted in different ways. And that's the same with the gospel. Like, our relationship with God is different with each and every person. So each seed has to be planted in a completely different way. It has to be nurtured in a completely different way. And some people, maybe they need to be like aggravated. They need to like, oh, they need that debate. Like, there's some people that love a debate, and like that's when they come to know God. Like, and I'm like, that's so exciting to know that there's so many different ways that people are going to meet Jesus. Oh, like let's be praying these bold prayers. Like, be careful what you pray for, because something might just happen. Be careful what you pray for, because God might actually move in a way that you do not expect. And that is exciting. Like let's all be on fire. Let's be dangerous. Let's be dangerous. Oh, there's just something about that word. I'm like, yeah, I want to be dangerous in the name of the Lord. Like, what? Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. But yeah, like, sorry, I'm getting flustered. I'm ready to be like, whoa. But yeah, like it's just so exciting that we can pray these bold prayers, but also have expectation, be expectant that God is going to move when we have the bold faith and make those bold steps that go with these bold prayers. So yes, be careful what you pray for, but be careful what you pray for, and be excited that God is going to move in a powerful way, and be ready to be bold and dangerous in the name of the Lord. Oh, yes. I can't wait. I can't wait to see all that God is going to be doing in your life. I am so ready. Like, I just really feel like revival is coming, guys. Revival is coming, and we need to be ready and excited. And like, a fire is going to spread. Like, when you have all these flames, all these people on fire for God, all going in the same direction, it's like them forest fires. They just spread. All it takes is like one flame. That's all it takes. It's just being bold enough to be that one flame, and then the fire, it starts spreading, starts catching. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Let's be expectant for God to move. Let's be expectant for God to move in this last few months of the year. Like, what are we praying? What prayers are you praying? What bold prayers are you praying for the end of this year to see and like step into it, come into fruition. Yeah, I challenge you, make these bold prayers and have faith, step in obedience. But yeah, I'm going to wrap this episode up. I am so excited for you guys. I am praying for you continually. I just really feel the move of God, and it's exciting. Like, let's not be afraid. Let's be excited. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling now, as I normally do. But I pray you have an incredible rest of the week, an incredible month, an incredible last few months of the year. I can't believe we're saying that. What? Like, next month, I will have been doing TNT for a year. And I know, obviously, like, having a break in between, but that's insane. I'm like, a year ago, I started, like, my first episode. And now I'm like, and even just seeing, like, how God has grown in me, and, like, and just all the answered prayers. It's amazing. And maybe I'll do a little testimony of, like, the year at the end of the year. But anyway, let me leave you guys to it. Have an incredible rest of the day and week, and I will be back next week for another episode of TNT with your girl G.